Today, I'm going to show you how you can buy Luna, Terra Luna, for a discount. Welcome to Crypto Saver. So there's an interesting platform known as Kujira. Now, you might not have heard about it, but if you paid attention to one of the links within Anchor, there's an option there to take part in the liquidations. And that's exactly what Kujira is, a platform that you yourself, without any technical skills, can actually take part in liquidating other people out of their bLUNA positions. So let's dive right into it. So we're looking at the Kujira platform over here, and I'm going to try to explain everything that we're looking at so you yourself can actually take part in this as I have for the past 2 weeks. So to begin, we're looking specifically at the bLUNA collateral market. So for those that are providing bLUNA as collateral to borrow UST from Anchor. Now, as you can see here, what this chart tells you is basically where other people like myself are placing their money in. So right now, if we scroll a little lower, we can see how the bid, well, right here. So I've placed 250 UST for a 7% premium, meaning that if the system were to use my UST to liquidate some other user, I would like a 7% cut in doing so. And that is how you are able to get a discount on the Luna that you're purchasing, especially since bLUNA and Luna typically trades at a 1-to-1 ratio, since bLUNA is simply a bonded form of Luna. Now, what you might notice here, well, before we go in, let's actually look at this. So you can kind of see where everyone else, what kind of discount everybody else is looking for. So most of the money right now is actually at the 8% premium, right? So these people are saying, hey, if you're going to use my UST, I want an 8% cut if you do so. But as you can see also, a lot of the premium actually begins at 5%, which is where I had my first fill done. If we look here under my bids, you can see that I bid about 100 UST. It's not shown here right now, but it was about 100 UST at a 5% premium, which did get filled a couple days ago, and we're gonna look at exactly what that trade was about. So about from 5% to around 9% seems to be where most of the people who are taking part in Kujira are kind of looking to catch premium at. Now, naturally, the more premium you're looking for, if you want a 10, 15, 20% cut on a liquidation, you might have to wait quite a bit, because the way the systems work is, so if we go here at a 1% premium, there's 546 UST. That money will be first used to liquidate someone else, followed by the 2% premium, which is $710, 710 UST, and it goes down the chain. So the people that are bidding less of a premium are more likely to be filled first before you. Well, not just more likely, they will get filled before you, because they go in ascending order. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you're bidding here, that if you do so, the higher your premium, the less likely you are to be filled under normal market fluctuations. If we look at the day when I got filled for the 100 UST at a 5% premium, it was on the 16th, and we can kind of see what the overnight action here was that was happening here, right? We really see Luna just cascading in price here, going from $46 all the way to just about $41 at its lows. During this drop is actually when I was able to get filled on one of those liquidations. And let's see at what price did I really get filled at. If we're gonna whip out a calculator real quick here. So going off the premise that 1 bLUNA is always equal to 1 Luna, we can take 100 UST, just how much I had bid, and divide that by 2.435. Let's go about that far in. So basically, I've paid an average price of about 41.06 per Luna during this liquidation, and that's obviously with my discount. And if we look at the chart, 41.06, if we look at the chart, that would almost be similar to to me getting filled at the very bottom. I mean, the very bottom of this candle, we're looking at 4102. So yes, I mean, basically that almost meant like I was just buying dip perfectly. Now, why did that happen? Well, likely I didn't get filled down here, obviously, because of that 5% cut that I'm getting. I likely got filled somewhere at around, let's say, between 42 to 43 Luna. Now, if your premium was much higher, if you're looking instead of a 5% premium, you wanted a 10, 15, 20% premium, well, had you gotten filled somehow at 43, then likely your average cost would have been down at 40, at 39, at 38, because your premium that you're asking for is that much greater. In my case, we got filled at about 4106, and there are fees though, keep that in mind. So if we look right here, it says there's a withdrawal fee of about 0.024. So you do have to calculate that. So if we just simply take, we just go back right here and take 2 point, and we just remove about 24, shouldn't be too hard for us to do so, 2.4 and then minus 2 here, which is 1, and then minus 4 there. So about, this is the actual amount once I withdraw from Kujira. Now there are going to be fees likely on the Terra side, which should be pretty small. We're going to do this live though, so we'll get a chance to see what it is. But this would be the actual bLUNA that we would be withdrawing, since the fee does seem to be in bLUNA as well. Now, this amount, 2.411, if you take 100, divide that by 2.411, we're looking at an average price of about 41.47. So not as attractive as the 41.06 that we just saw, but still quite the greatest buy, quite a great buy there. Now, before we continue, let's talk about why do these liquidations happen? What's going on here? Well, on Anchor, if you want to borrow money, you can actually give collateral in return for UST that you'll be given as a loan. To do so, you would head over to the Borrow tab that we're on right now, and you can see what you can provide as collateral. So you can provide BF, bonded Ethereum, as collateral, or you can provide bonded Luna as collateral. And also on Kuijra, you can actually look at the market for both of them. So we're looking at the bLUNA. You can also look at bETH. You kind of see where the market is for that right now. Most of it tends to be at the 10%, and then you really have probably a big whale sitting here at the 30% premium asking for that. But let's head back to bLUNA here, and we'll head back to Anchor. So you can provide the bonded ETH right here, and you can borrow UST in return. Now, when you do so, you receive a little like sliding scale. It kind of tells you that if your collateral drops under X percentage, that you will be liquidated out of your position. Because Anchor is saying that, hey, we want to make sure that if you're borrowing, let's say you're borrowing at 1 UST, Anchor wants to make sure that you have, let's say, 1.5 value as a collateral, right? So say 1.5 bLUNA of value. If that bLUNA actually is now worth 1.4, let's say, they will kick you out of your position. They will say, well, that actually violates our minimum collateral requirements, and because of that, we want to basically sever this loan and we want our UST back. And the way they get their UST back is through liquidators such as myself that's using this platform, or such as yourself if you start using this platform. So when Anchor's coming around and saying to people, hey, we want our UST back from this specific loan, well, we're giving them that UST back, and we're receiving this little premium as a reward for doing so. So that's kind of the mechanisms in the background for how this works. But let's hop back into Kujira, and what we're going to be doing, we're going to be withdrawing this bLUNA that we have here from a couple days ago. Let's hit withdrawal. I just want to show you guys how all this looks like. Type in my password real quick. Let's try that again. Looks like we hit a bit of a snag here. I actually wonder if, I likely entered my password wrong, so we'll try that again. So So this is one of the issues of doing things live, right? So obviously, so there you go. It actually seemingly went through because the available amount is gone. Um, let's see if it loads in our wallet here somewhere. Let's see if we have to add it maybe as a token down here for it to display value. It says added. So yes, there you go. Now we do have the 2.411 bLUNA, which we did calculate when we subtracted the fee out of there. We did notice a few errors there. I'm not sure why they came up. So if you do get the same on your end, I guess don't be alarmed since it did work for me inevitably. But we have our bLUNA now sitting here. So again, if we wanted to, we could go over to Anchor and provide the bLUNA to borrow UST if we wanted to. For those of you that haven't been doing that, provide the bLUNA. So you can kind of see that if I provide the bLUNA, I would be able to borrow 62 UST for doing so. But anyhow, what I'm more concerned about is actually converting our bLUNA into Luna, since that is what we want to be holding here. So there's a couple different options for doing so, and we're going to look at both of them right now. So when it comes to converting your bLUNA into Luna, one way of doing so is through Anchor itself. If you go over to the bond section and then hit on burn, we can see two options here. Now, if you just go to regular burn, if you really have all the time in the world to do so, and you select all your bLUNA, you would basically receive that 1-to-1 ratio that we've been talking about. But the biggest downside here is that you have to wait 21 days for the process to finish. So if you really want to make sure they're not going to lose anything on the spread for the most part, I mean, here you still seemingly do lose a bit on the spread, but it's an extremely small number. Then burn would be the option for that if you're willing to wait. The second option through Anchor would be the instant burn. And if we select all the bLUNA in our wallet here, we can see that in this case, when it came to the regular burn, it was like 0.9999. It went for a couple of digits there. In this case, we're looking at 0.985 Luna per bLUNA. So it won't convert perfectly. It does seem that bLUNA is trading at a discount right now to Luna. And the minimum that we would receive would be 2.132 Luna if we were to do so, and there's obviously fees involved. Now, another way of doing so is if you have TerraStation downloaded on your computer, and if we head over to the swap option here, I'm just going to refresh this page here, and we can select bLUNA. We can select Luna we're converting from bLUNA to Luna via a TerraSwap here. We select all of that. And we can actually see right here how much Luna we expect to receive for that amount of bLUNA. And in this case, we're looking at 2.37. Now, if we compare this to what Anchor was giving us for the instant burn, we would receive less Luna if we used Anchor for the instant burn. Now, do keep one thing in mind. It does say minimum received, so it does seem that it can be larger than that. So maybe it wouldn't really matter if you did it through Anchor or through the TerraStation. But we do seem to actually also pay a trading fee to Anchor for swapping it through them. So it does seem that the best thing to do so, make sure the slippage is as low as possible. There is a trading fee here. Expected price. So let's actually get this converted right now. I'm going to pay this price of UST, so it's a bit easier for us to see. So about 10 cents would be the fee. And you can see here, actually, we would pay 25 cents as a transaction fee on top of this trading fee here. And I'll just enter my password real quick. So again, this would be the Luna that we would be expected to receive. And we'll swap. Okay, and let's take a look and see how much Luna we actually ended up getting. So 2.37. Does that match up how much was just quoted to us? I'm just gonna Just going to zero this out. So that's how much was just quoted to us. Yep, just about right. The last number is a 6 here instead of a 9. So that's how much Luna we received in return. Now, if we calculate that, because again, this whole video began with us trying to see how much of a discount we would get on Luna using Kuijra. So if we take 100 USD and we divide that by 2.37, let's say 67. So the average price basically came out to 42.07, and that is after converting from bLUNA to Luna and also paying the commission rates to Kujira. We did not include the extra transaction fees that we paid. I think overall we might be looking at an additional 30-40 cents there. But that's how much it basically is. So as a quick correction, we can actually see the fees right here that we paid. So when we claimed the bLUNA and we transferred it to our wallet here from Kujira, we paid 15 cents USD, and then we paid an additional 10 cents USD here. Overall, about 25 cents we paid in fees outside the commission fee we gave to Kujira with that bLUNA balance. So again, it's not too bad whatsoever. But how can you truly take advantage of using Kujira? Now, if I was on top of this, right, if the moment that there was a liquidation, which by the way, you're not really notified when it happens. Like you have to have the app opened up and you have to kind of sit here and refresh, because I was not given a notification when the liquidation occurred. But if I was on top of it and I saw that Luna was absolutely crashing these moments, and I have reason to believe that, hey, I could be part of a liquidation that's coming up, then the moment that bLUNA was available to me, I could have withdrawn it and converted it to Luna and just liquidated out of it and actually captured. Now, I probably wouldn't have captured that 5%, but I might have been able to capture 4% of basically profit, like within a few minutes, the moment the liquidation occurred. So, and I'm sure a lot of people are using Kujira in such a way, right? That I'm sure they set up a way to get notified the moment a liquidation occurs. And once they get that bLUNA at a discount, they take it, they convert it, they get out of Luna altogether into USD, and they capture that essentially almost guaranteed gain of premium that they put up. Now, naturally, if you have a higher premium of 10, 12, 13, 15%, obviously this type of strategy becomes even more lucrative overall. Now, if you're looking to simply buy the dip, it's also not a bad strategy. I mean, that's why I kind of put 100, well, I put 100 USD just to test out the platform. And I put another 250 USD at a much higher premium, at a 7% premium, kind of to buy the dip. There's an argument to be made that, hey, if we look at Luna right now as we speak, I'm just going to see if I could reset it back to today's date here, since we had to go a few days back. But I mean, Luna is trading back at 43. Now, it would have to probably drop very quickly down to, let's say, $35, $34 for possibly my liquidation to kick in. If I was at 5%, it might be a little easier. And again, if you want to take less of a premium, you will likely get filled much earlier, but then you're really not benefiting that much, especially when you consider that there are fees for withdrawing from Kujira. And then if you really want to have Luna because you want to stake Luna or something, then even converting it over, again, you're not really going to make that much money. So at a minimum, make sure that you're bidding at 2% premium, at the very minimum. Outside of that, it's just not really worth using the platform for this. And now what we're going to do, we're going to put in one more bid just to show you guys how this works. And let's do a 5%. Oops, looks like it doesn't. Okay, let's just use this. We're going to use 5%, and we're just going to put 100 USD here. That's the bid amount. Place my bid. So this will go through Terra, and let's post it. By the way, you do pay a transaction fee for doing this, and you also pay a transaction fee for even canceling your bid. So keep that in mind. You will lose money if you decide to just throw a bid in and take it off. Now, notice this over here. It says bid successfully submitted. It can be activated in 10 minutes. Now, make sure you're aware of this, because sometimes, I know when I first did it and I placed my bid, I actually did not notice for hours afterwards that the bid was not active, because after 10 minutes, you will have a button over here where you can click to actually activate the bid whenever you want to do so. So we just waited those 10 minutes, and now we have that option, right? So right down here, we have bid remaining. We can click on activate. Once again, this goes through Terra, and it actually just disappeared on us all of a sudden. Let's just refresh the page and just make sure that it didn't go through already, because it might have just clicked. Nope. Okay, so activate. uh, post. Just give this a few seconds here. And there you go. Now our bid is active. And if we want to cancel it, I mean, there's a cancel button right there. But as it stands right now, I have 100 USD at the 5% premium mark and the 250 USD at the 7% premium mark. And that's it's pretty darn simple. And if you look at the recent history, you can kind of see what people are doing here. So if it's in red, as it says, that means that bid was retracted. So someone just simply came in and canceled their bid. If it's in blue, that means someone just placed a bid there. So 300 USD at 4% premium. If it's in this light green, that actually means that someone claimed some of the, in this case, it was bETH, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yes, bETH was claimed by that person. Now, we also claimed, a bunch of Luna some time ago, 15 minutes or so ago. I would imagine we can find it here, and we actually did right here. This is our claim, right? We claimed 2.436 bLUNA. So all this appears here. But as far as I know, when a liquidation is done successfully, like when I receive that liquidation, it wouldn't appear here. But when you actually do something in the platform, whether you place a bid, you retract a bid, you claim whatever you've received, then it actually would appear under recent activity. So that's basically a quick rundown on how you can use Kujira, and I feel like everybody should use it. It's pretty cool. Big downside, you are locking up your money, right? So if you do have uses for your UST, well, if you do apply it with Kuijra, you just can't really touch that UST in the meantime. But for me personally, I'm still interested in buying more Luna, and if this kind of gives me an opportunity to really buy some really good dips, because sometimes when you're sleeping, Luna really, or the crypto market can really, come down very quickly, very harshly. And by the way, the reason why crypto tends to be so volatile, especially with Luna, is due to these liquidations, right? So when Luna starts coming down naturally on its own and people are selling out, and everyone who used bLUNA as collateral to borrow money, and since bLUNA and Luna follow each other in price, well, if Luna is dropping a price, bLUNA is dropping a price, which means that everyone who borrowed money using bLUNA, they risk getting liquidated. And if they get liquidated, then the person who receives their bLUNA goes in and ends up selling it at the market, right? Say converting it, they sell it and they get Luna, and they also dump Luna after that to get into UST, and that creates even more sell pressure. So you get into this kind of feedback loop where the liquidations themselves are causing more downwards pressure, and the people that are taking part in the liquidations are actually helping provide even more downward pressure by also selling into that. So that's why there's always volatility there. And it actually was much worse earlier this year when Luna really came down. I mean, if you look over here, back in May, right, when Luna went from 17 down to like under five, under $5 just within a couple days here. Back then, the rules for liquidations were much more strict, and it was much more difficult to manage your liquidations within Anchor. And on top of that, this whole idea of being able to bid for the premium did not really exist back then. Everybody was getting liquidated at a 30% premium. So if you did get liquidated back then, you really took a big loss in doing so. Nowadays, it's not so much because you can kind of see most people tend to be okay if taking a 5 to 10% premium, which is it's still a loss, but it's nowhere near as much as a 30% loss that people were taking back then. And obviously, if you're taking a 30% discount on the bLUNA that you were able to receive back then as a liquidator, of course you would try to just dump it on the market right away. Even if you wanted to buy the dip, I mean, it makes sense to lock in a 30% gain right in that moment, right? Instead of just buying, I mean, you could always just sell that and just wait a little bit and see if you want to buy the dip a bit later or wait for it to kind of bottom out and so on. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was instructive. I hope kind of better explain how you could use Kujira as a Terra user.